In this video, I want to show you how to use the complete trucking accounting and tax with IFTA reporting. I sell this on Etsy and also on my website, so if you're interested, check out the link in the description. If you purchase this item on my website, it's a little bit cheaper and you get 10% off. So check out the link in the description. So I am a CPA. I've been in the accounting industry for more than 15 years, and I've built this spreadsheet from an accounting perspective. So mainly to help truckers organize their expenses, calculate their tax deduction. And this is my second year working with truckers to build templates and spreadsheets for them. And this template here is the result of all the feedback that I received from truckers. So I do sell various other versions like the ultimate and then the simple trucking profit and loss statement, and I also sell just a tax deduction spreadsheet on its own. But this one is the combination of all those together for truckers to do their accounting and look at their tax deduction. So it's quite comprehensive. There are 20 tabs in this template here. So I sell two versions. I sell one here with 20 tabs, which have everything from accounting to tax deduction and IFTA and weight and mileage reporting. And then I sell one that's without the IFTA reporting. So this one has 16 tabs on the right. So if you're an owner operator or a truck driver that has someone who does their IFTA reporting, or you lease your truck and someone else handle that for you, then purchase this item here because it doesn't have the IFTA. Okay. But if you need everything, then purchase the one on the left. These two, spreadsheet or system, they work the same way, except that this one doesn't have IFTA and this one does. Okay. So before I go further and show you all of the tabs, I just want to say a quick disclaimer. So this video is for educational purposes only and does not provide legal, tax, or financial advice. And this template that I sell, it's shown as a general tool to help track expenses and organize information. So everyone's situation is different, so please consult with a qualified accountant or tax professional before making a financial or tax decision. Okay? All right. So after having that gotten out of the way, let me just show you all of the tabs in this spreadsheet. So there are 20 tabs. So the first tab is a tax guide. So here you can read some information on what is deductible and not deductible. And because this spreadsheet has 20 tabs in Excel and Google Sheet, you will have a hyperlink. So you can easily click on these hyperlink and to move around in this spreadsheet, because otherwise it's just a lot of tabs, right? So also I forgot to mention, this spreadsheet here works with Google Sheet and Excel. So you purchase this item, you get two files, one Excel and one Google Sheet. So you can use it in either of those software, okay? And then the next tab here is the IFTA tax rate table. So this one here is where you would update the tax rate table, and this tax rate table automatically will flow to the IFTA ledger and will calculate the amount that you owe or the credit that you get based on these tax rate. And then the IFTA reporting on this spreadsheet, it only works for diesel and diesel surcharge. So meaning with IFTA, there's a lot of other fuel type that you need to report as well. But for this spreadsheet, it only track fuel, diesel fuel for IFTA, because most of the truckers who report IFTA, they report diesel, right? So that's why I built the spreadsheet mainly for diesel. But if you need it for other types of fuel, just reach out to me and I can customize it for you. And the reason why I just kept it to diesel is because this sheet already has 20 tabs. Each of those fuel needs their own tab. So that's going to be quite a lot more tabs. So I think generally most trucker would just prefer to just have the diesel, because that's what truckers mainly report. So that's what I keep it at diesel. But just make sure you update this rate every quarter, because if the rate gets updated every quarter, and I also put information here into where you can get that information. Okay. And then the next tab is the settings tab. So here is where you go and update all of your information. So for example, you would just update anything that's yellow. So here you put in your company name and it'll flow to all the financial statement, and here you can update your revenue type, your delivery status, your payee, payment method, and then here you can update all the fixed and variable expenses based on your trucking needs. So you can update all these descriptions. Anything that's gray you should not edit, because the spreadsheet require that information. So in trucking, everybody needs to pay for fuel, right? So that's like a universal thing. So this one, you need to keep it here, and please do not edit, because the template needs this information or that exact text to find data. And then also same thing, in trucking you get per diem, either full day or partial. So this helps to calculate tax deduction. So please don't edit this. You can edit anything that's yellow. All right. And then I have an explanation here what does fixed and what does variable expense mean, so you can update that. All right. And then the next thing I have here is the load profitability calculator. So this is a cool thing I add in so that you can calculate, whether a load is profitable or not before taking it, if you like to use it. And then also there's also a comparison tool here, so you can compare any two loads. So this one at the top, you can just look at one load to see whether it's profitable or not. But if you have two loads that you need to decide, which one should I take, you can input the information here and it'll tell you, which load is more profitable. All right. The income and settlement tab is where you record all of your revenue for the load. And then all of the deductions, or if you have any deductions for that load. So for example, you enter in the date, and then you create a unique identifier or load information, provide all this information here, and then you can put in any revenue type that you receive for that load, and then these are deduction. It will automatically calculate your net payout settlement. And then next tab is the vehicle expense tab. So here you go and record all of your vehicle expenses, and you see this drop down menu here, expense types. So these are the different type of expenses. So these drop down menu here come from the settings. So that's why when you update the settings here, it will automatically be part of the drop down menu. So if you have any description that's specific to your business, you can update it in the settings and it'll be part of the drop down menu here, and you can just select that kind of expense. And the other thing I want to mention is if you have a general business expense, an expense that's not related to a load, you can just click on this general business expense. I know in my previous versions you have to create the general business expense, but here I just already created, so it'll be part of the drop down menu. Okay, and we can go over that later. But I just want to say that if you have an expense like a lease payment that is not related to a specific load and it's just a general business expense, you have an option to select the general business expense. So that's the upgrade from the other versions that I built. And then the travel and per diem, here's where you record all of your travel expenses. So if you take per diem, you can just select a per diem day and it automatically calculate your deductible per diem, and we can go over that in a bit. But this is where you record all of your travel expenses and per diem expenses. And then the business and miscellaneous, same thing. Here's you record all your business or miscellaneous expenses, like telephone communication, and then you just tell the sheet how many percentage of that is for business. If it's 100, you can leave it alone, or you can put 100%, and it'll tell you what the deductible amount is and non-deductible. Okay, and then the IFTA ledger. If you recalled earlier, we had a IFTA tax rate table. So that IFTA tax rate table over here, it automatically flowed to this IFTA ledger. So once you pick, the state that you're traveling to, it automatically grab the tax rate and then calculate the tax due or the credit. Okay, but we can go over that later. So let me clear this out and we can start from scratch next later. So this IFTA reporting summary here is just basically a summary of the ledger, but here you can filter and choose any month or quarter you want to look at. And this tab here automatically populate, right? So you don't need to do anything. So you can pick the year, the month or the quarter, and the state, or you can look at all the state and it'll tell you the information for what you filter here, okay? And then the weight and mileage ledger. So some state, they don't charge IFTA, but they charge a weight weight charge per mile as well. So one state that's very famous for that is Oregon. So they don't charge you IFTA, but they charge you a weight mile. Okay. So here you can just input in your information and put in your declare weight and how much Oregon charge for that mile based on the weight, and then it automatically calculate your tax once you input in that information. Okay. And then the load searches here, it's pretty much you just enter in any load ID or any unique identifier that you set up before, and then all the data for that load or unique identifier will pop up. It will tell you the total miles, the revenue per mile, break even per mile, net profit per mile, where's your load origin to destination. Okay. And then estimated tax calculator, here's where you enter in all of your tax rate, so that these tax rate can flow to your tax financial statement and calculate how much tax you're owed. So here you can just put in your federal income tax bracket, state tax income bracket, Social Security and Medicare tax rate, and then it'll automatically calculate the information for you. And this is optional here. You can set up your target deduction of how much you want per month, quarter, annual. Again, this is optional. And then the profit and loss statement. So basically, after you fill out all of your income and expenses, all of the data will automatically pull to this financial statement and display it into a month, quarter, and year. And here you can, set up any start month. Some business starts in, June. Some people start in January. So pick June, it'll just start with June, okay? And you pick January, start with January. So here you can pick any year you want to start. You can do 2026. So that's why I said this thing is multi-year, because you can go through all the way until, I think I set this up until 2050. Yeah. So that's how you would update the year and then the month. And then here, one of the cool things that I have set up here, of course, this one will tell you your operational information, right? Your loaded miles per month, empty miles, average truck MPG, total gallons used, average fuel cost per gallon, total fuel cost, and then your revenue per mile, net revenue per mile, total cost per mile, fixed cost per mile, net profit or loss per mile. But the cool thing I have here is the actual per diem expenditure versus per diem deductible. If you do per diem, you can see whether you have savings or expenses, right? Or, loss from that per diem. So, for example, when I was working in audit, I travel a lot, right, to audit all these other companies. So I would go to, California, I would go to Oregon to audit other company. So during my travel, I get a per diem from the company. So for example, the company will give me $100 per diem per day. But because I was trying to save money, right? So instead of spending $100, I only spend like maybe $50 on food. So that means I have $50 of savings. So this is the same concept, right? So if you're a trucker and you travel outside of state, you get per diem by the IRS. So if you do a full day per diem, what's that? That's $64. Currently, you get $64 deductible, but you only use $50, right? So then you save $14, right? So this one here tells you, did you have any savings from per diem or not? Okay, so that's how it works. And then down here you can see your operating trucking revenue. So these are like just breakdown of all the type of revenue, your settlement deduction, your fixed costs and variable costs. The reason why you want to have these costs broken out is so you can see which costs you can control, right? Can you increase or can you decrease these costs more so that you can increase your revenue, right? That's why having fixed costs and variable costs is very helpful in a trucking business, so you can see which costs you can control and which costs you can decrease further, so then you can increase your revenue and increase your efficiency. The other thing you'll notice down here is I have a reconciliation. So basically in this spreadsheet there is two financial statements, a profit and loss statement and then a tax statement, and I want to make sure that those numbers are in sync, like all the numbers are being are being used correctly. So that's why I have this reconciliation. So if your reconciliation show everything that's zero out, that means that both numbers are in sync, okay? So this is profit and loss statement. Oh, another thing I want to mention is this spreadsheet, it does all the reconciliation and all of the profit and loss for you automatically. So you don't have to do any of this, okay? Your job is just to input your income and expenses, and then the spreadsheet will figure out everything for you, and then organize the data for you by the month, the quarter, and the year. All right. So the other tab is the comparative P&L. So here is just you can pick any 2 period, any 2 month, any 2 quarter and year, and then it will tell you the trend, right? The dollar change and then the percentage change. Did you do better in February compared to January, right? So it's very nice to have a comparative financial statement so you can see how you're doing, basically. And then the next statement is a tax financial statement. Again, this thing will automatically populate, so you just need to pick the month and the year that you're working on, and then this here will automatically populate here. So the difference between this tax financial statement and the profit and loss financial statement is that with the tax financial statement, its main purpose is to increase your tax deduction or increase your legally increase your or legally help you increase your expenses so that you can reduce your revenue so you pay less taxes to the government, right? But with the profit and loss statement, its goal is to help you analyze this and then see how you can increase your revenue by decreasing your expenses, right? So there are 2 types of statement that help you see different things, right? The profit and loss statement is trying to help you to increase your revenue by reducing your expenses so you can have more money in your pocket, right? Versus a tax financial statement, its whole goal is to increase your expenses or deductible expenses so you can reduce your income so you can pay less taxes to the government and then keep more money for yourself. So that's the difference between these two. So that's why having these two financial statement is very helpful for your business because you can see both sides, right? And then the next tab here is the comparative tax financial. So I really like to do comparison because I want to see, am I doing better from 1 month to the next? So that's why I have all these comparative financials. And this is the tax comparative financial. So you can see here it says comparative tax financial statement. Basically same idea. You just select any 2 periods and then you can see whether you're doing better in one period versus the other. Okay. And then here's the financial dashboard. So visually it'll tell you all the information. So this is the financial dashboard. So you can pick any month, any quarter, and then year to date. And then you can see your revenue, your net settlement, your net profit or cash flow, your revenue per mile, a net profit per mile, break even per mile. And then here you can see your different types of costs. And then here, once you fill out the data, there's going to be a pie chart that tells you your expense breakdown. So it'll break down your fuel cost, your fixed cost, your variable cost, and then different trends as well. And then the next dashboard is the weekly and daily dashboard. So this is my favorite one. The reason is because there's a small calendar here. So you can pick any year, any month, right? Let's say you pick August. Right, it'll populate to August, so we'll just pick September because we're in September. And then you can pick any start date, so you can pick any, you can pick Monday or Sunday as your start date. So if you pick Sunday as your start date, you can see it starts on Sunday. Pick Monday, it starts on Monday, right? So we'll pick Sunday here, and then any week that you pick, let's say you pick 3, you can see it highlight week 3 here, and then notice today's the 15th, so it also highlights this as 15. So once you fill out all the data here, the data will populate and show you, your weekly summary so you can compare, did I do better this week than last week? How am I doing? Am I having a good week? And then the other dashboard is the tax dashboard. So here, same thing. You can select any quarter, year to date. And also the reason why everything is 0 is because I haven't filled out anything at all. So that's why after we finish doing an example, I will show you another spreadsheet with everything filled out or mocked up so you can see how the data display on the dashboard, okay? But basically you can pick any quarter that you want and then any month and then year to date, and then you can see your tax saving, your total tax deduction, your tax owed, how much per diem day did you get, and then all your vehicle deduction, business deduction, different trends. So it's a pretty comprehensive spreadsheet or system that you can use for your trucking business, okay? And so let's do an example so you can see how the data flow. And then from there, I can explain a little bit more of each tab, and then we will I will show you an example with everything that's filled out. And then I really want to keep this under 30 minutes, hopefully. So I'm going to break out. I'm going to do another video on the IFTA and also on the financial statement as a supplementary video, okay? So let's just do an example. So once you purchase this item, you get 20 tabs. And then the first thing you need to do is update the IFTA. If you buy the one with the IFTA, just make sure that this tax rate here is updated, okay? Yeah, and then you can go to the site, just read the instruction here on how to update it. And then the next thing you need to do is go to the settings, and here is where you would update your business information, right? So once you update this company name, all of your financial will update. So for example, you see ABC company. So if you go to the profit and loss statement, this here, it will update because it's linked to the settings, okay? And then here, just make sure that all of this yellow highlighted here is what you want. So this revenue type here, it would match to the income and settlement here. So anything that you change there would change up here. So for example, let me just say this is trip revenue, right? If you change this to load revenue, for example, load revenue, you can see here it changed to load revenue, and this is where you input your load revenue, right? So this is just description you want to change here. And also we change this here to load revenue, right? You're going to see on the financial it also changed to load revenue. So you can see here it changed to load revenue, right? So that's how you change the description on the financial statement on the income and settlement, is you change it on the settings tab, okay? So just make sure you can change it here. So I'll just change it back to trip revenue. Okay. All right. So after we updated there, and you're happy with all of the updates, then you can move on. So I'm happy with this here because I'm just doing an example. But when after you purchase this, just make sure you update all of the description according to your business needs, and all of this will flow to the drop down menu on the expense tab and also the financial statement, okay? And next is the load probability calculator. Here, you can just input in, let's say you're trying to figure out, okay, should I take a load or not? So let's say you get 5,500, right? So you get 300 here. And this sheet here is not attached to anything. It's just a calculator for you to decide you should take a load or not, right? Just a bonus tab I added. So let's say you travel 3,000 mile deadhead miles. These are empty miles, 30. So your truck MPG 6, your price per gallon is 4.75. Tolls and other variable costs, let's say, is 300, and your fixed cost per mile is 1.02. So fixed cost per mile, I put a note here how you can calculate it. To get your fixed cost per mile, what you can do is add up all your fixed costs for a period. Let's say for a month, like January, let's say you have $2,000 fixed costs and how many miles you driven in that period. So let's say you driven 5,000 miles. All you do is just divide 2,000 by 5,000, and your fixed cost will be 40 cents, okay? And the other thing you can do is you can get the fixed cost per mile on your profit and loss statement. So you can see here there's a fixed cost per mile here. So you can use that as well if you want to use this calculator, all right? But basically, after you enter in all this data, you can see it tells you whether this load is profitable or not, right? It says here it's profitable, consider this load, because your 1.91 and then your net profit is 10.65. So let's say we decrease this, okay, by, let's say, see, it says not profitable. Then you need to reevaluate, okay, because your net profit is in the negative and your net profit mile is also negative. But you increase this by like 8,000, right? Your net profit will increase. So that's how the calculator will work. And then, your load profitability and comparison tool. So you just enter the same thing and it helps you compare between the two loads, okay? And then their income and settlement. So here, let's say we can start out. So here, let's say we'll start out on 1/8/2025. We can create a unique identifier or a load number if you want. In the customer broker, you can put any broker. So I'll just do sample broker, right? Truck driver name, I'll just do Jane Doe. Truck driver number, I'll just do an example. Origin, so we can do Seattle, Washington, and this one is Portland, Oregon. Delivery date, let's say it's 1/10/2025. Delivery status. So here you can set up this delivery status here on the settings, right? So you can see delivery status. You can change it to anything you like. But that's where you would change it. And by changing this here, you would also update the drop-down menu here, okay? So let's say it's pending loaded miles. So let's just say it's 300 and empty would be 10, okay? And then fuel gallons used, let's say we used, let's see, 50 gallon, and then it'll automatically calculate your average truck MPG, okay? And then your expected revenue, you can put this as optional or not optional. So this can help you see, okay, this is your expected revenue and what is your actual revenue. So it's helping you like forecast and project, but you don't have to put this, but I'll just do an example. Okay, so say I get 6,000, expense 1,500, okay? So example from this here, from this trip, what is your trip revenue, right? Let's say you get 1,500, did you get any intention revenue? Just do an example. Fuel charge, you get 100, accessible revenue, let's say 600, bonus, let's say you get 500, other receipts from this, right? So I put in a lot of placeholder, so you can change all these receipts to other description that matches your business needs. So I just do 100, for example, for each of them. So basically from here, it's just showing that, hey, you receive 4,300 for this trip, right? Because these are all the different type of revenue you receive for that load or that trip. And then you can put any notes you want here. And then if you have like a fee that you need to pay to someone, like a carrier or factoring company, let's say you pay someone, 3% for this load. So this is the fee you pay them. And let's say there's deductions on this load. Let's say you got 100 in cash advance, escrow maintenance, you need to put a 50 there. Insurance deduction, maybe another 25, equipment, maybe 15. Other deductions, these are tax deductible deductions. So, tax deductible deductions would be something that's related to your business, right? Like if you need to pay like a trailer fee or anything like that. And then other deduction from settlement that's not tax deductible would be something that's personal, right? Like if you have your wage are being garnished for childcare payment, that is not deductible, okay? So let's just put deductible as 100 here, okay? And then here are all your deductions and then your net payout. So basically you got 4,300 for this total load for revenue, right? And these are all your deductions, right? So 419. So 4,300 minus 419 is 3,881. So that's basically your net settlement. And then from there, we can go and record all the expenses related to this vehicle expense, okay? So we can go to vehicle expense here. And then on the date, so let's say you can record as many expenses that you want here, right? Here you can go load 101, right? And then you can put odometer reading if you want. You don't have to. Expense type, let's say you have fuel expense, and then you can put the vendor description where you bought this if you want. It's not really required. And then you say 50 gallons, your payment method would be credit card, right? So let's see, 50, and then let's say it's 475 per gallon. Let's see, so that'll be about what, $237.50. Okay, that's how much you paid for your fuel cost. And then you can add other costs too, right, related to that load. So you can add other costs as well. Let's say you have some sort of repair on this trip as well. And then here you can put any how much you paid for it, right? Maybe it's like a $50. And then we were traveling to Oregon, so this shouldn't be Alabama. Okay. And then the other thing I mentioned earlier, let's say you have general business expense in January. It's not related to a load, right? So you can click general business expense, and here maybe it's a lease payment. You're leasing a truck. And you pay this with, let's say, a check, right? So it would be $2,500 for a lease, right? So this is general business expense. This is not related to any load. So that's how you record a general business expense, all right? Travel and per diem. So here, let's say on 1/8/2025, we use this load here. Entry type. So let's say you take a per diem full day. So as you notice, when you pick per diem, it automatically get the rate for you, right? The IRS in 2025 give you $80 of deduction for a full day of per diem, but of that $80, you can only take $64 deduction, or 80% of it, okay? And then here's where you can track, okay, you get $64 from the IRS, but how much did you spend on meals that day and incidental, right? Let's say you spend 50, so automatically you're saving $14, right? And then here you can also do 1/8/2025. You can do other expenses. Let me change this to 1/8 because we started at 1/8. So you have other traveling expenses related to, let's say, lodging. So you need to pay, right, credit card. So let's say we also paid this credit card. I forgot to choose the payment method. So let's say we paid $100, right, for lodging. Okay. And then business and miscellaneous expense. So let's say we go here. Unique identifier. So you can pick any load here. Expense type would be, communication, cell phone, your cell phone bill, total amount paid. So let's say maybe it's $100 for that month. And this is all related to your business. You can leave it 100. But if it's not, you can do 80%, right? Let's say you use this cell phone, 80% of it's for your business and 20% of it's personal. So what you can do is you just put 80%. So you can see 80% is deductible and the other 20% is non-deductible. Okay. And then the IFTA ledger here is where you can record IFTA information if you purchase the item or the spreadsheet that has IFTA. So all you need to do here is I also put some notes here, so make sure that you always update the tax rate table because that table will be pulled through here, okay? So let's do this real quick if you're doing IFTA. So let's say on 1/8/2025, unique identifier, you can pick the load ID if you want, but it's not required. Driver's name, you can do Jane Doe, right? Truck number, just give it a truck number. So here it asks you the state and province. Which state and province did you go through, right? So say you went through Washington, your odometer reading is 55,600, and then your exit will be 56,000, right? So you drove 400, and then here it asks you the taxable miles. So usually it's the whole thing for 400, okay? So then that means that there's no non-taxable mile. But if you enter 350, it'll know that there's only 50 non-taxable, okay? I'll enter 400. Fleet truck MPG will be 6. Vendor type name, you can put in the vendor name if you want. So let's say it's LOVE, loves. And then fuel type is automatically diesel because this template, if the ledger here, can only handle diesel, all right? But if you needed to be customized to handle other fuel type, reach out to me and I can customize it for you. So here it asks you the gallons purchased in this jurisdiction. So pretty much how many gallons you purchase in Washington. Okay. So as you can see here, the taxable gallons consumed in this jurisdiction. So if you travel 400 miles and your truck MPG 6, then you would need 66.67 gallons, right? But here it asks you how much did you purchase in Washington. from the one that you use, right? So let's say I purchase, let's say I purchase 75 gallons, okay? Price per gallon, you can put this if you want. You don't have to. Anything that's required, you need to put the information. Non-taxable gallons, so these are like reefer gallons or any other gallons that is non-taxable with IFTA. So let's say I'll do 3 here. So you can see automatically, it'll automatically fill out what your net taxable gallons is, your tax rate. So this tax rate comes from the tax rate table, and the surcharge. Washington doesn't charge a surcharge tax, and the effective date of the tax rate is Q3 because that's what we updated to Q3. Prepaid tax credit. These are tax paid gallon times the tax rate set by the jurisdiction, so automatically calculate that for you, and the tax owed, and then the tax surcharge, because Washington doesn't charge it, so you have 0 here. So basically, here you get a credit. You see, it's a negative here. All right. So I can explain this more in another video, but that's how you would enter in the data for each of the state, and then from there you go to this IFTA summary, and then see, do we do 25? I put 05, so that's why here. So you go to this IFTA summary, and you can pick any of your selection here, and that information will update here. And you can see for Washington, we have a credit of $6.62. Okay. All right. And then the weight and mile ledger, how you enter that in is, let's say you travel to Oregon. Let's say when we went there for 2025, right? You can pick any load. And truck driver is Jane Doe. Truck number. State, let's say we travel to Oregon. Odometer, 5,600, and then here, let's say 60 or 56,100. Okay, so it's 500. Declared weight, let's say it's 58,000 pounds, and you go to the state's website and you get the rate, and it's 18 cents, and this is how much you owe. Okay, and the filing frequency is monthly because we put monthly here, but make sure to check with Oregon. So load search is where you come here and then you can see, right? You enter in load 101. All the data regarding that load will let you know, will display here. So if you enter in load 101, you can see it's from Seattle, Washington to Portland, Oregon, and your net profit's $3,363.50. So your net profit per mile, your fuel cost, fixed operating cost, truck MPG, all those good information are there. So this is like a really quick Google search kind of thing. You can just search quickly to see how you did on this load, okay? Estimated tax calculator, so this is where you go in and input in your tax rate. So then the tax financial statement can calculate your tax information. So let's say federal, let's say it's 10%, and this is 6%. And I'm not sure what the Social Security rate is, but you can check, and I think that is let me see, I think it's about 12% and 3%, I think. But make sure to check this. And then here, as you can see, right, once you input in that data, you can see how much your taxes you owe in taxes right away. So your income for January. So you can see any month that you put in data, you can see here, because we put in data for January, it automatically tells you what your income, your expenses, and your net profit, right? And then your total taxes. So as you can see, your net profit is a little bit different than what you have for this profit, right? That's because some items are deductible on this, how it's calculated for your tax purposes. But this one, your load search, it's just based on your P&L, basically any expenses it can remove, right? But the estimated tax calculator, it can only remove any expenses that the IRS allows. But here, let me show you the profit and loss statement. So as we enter data for January, right, you can see all that data automatically populate already, right? It automatically pull all that data in for you, and it calculates your total miles you travel, your average MPG, your total gallons used, your average fuel cost per gallon, fuel cost, your total operating trucking revenue, right? And then your net profit, revenue per mile, all the information And you can remember, right? So we used $50 for per diem for full day, but we got $64 of deductions, so it's $14. So your total net profit is $863.50 for your net profit. For your net revenue, net profit is, let's see, net settlement revenue is $3,881. Okay, so you can see the information automatically flow to the financial statement. And then here, the comparative statement, same thing here. You can go from January here, you pick any month, right? And then February, or you can do February. You always want to pick the most recent on this cell, see? And then for D is the previous one. So we don't have anything for February, but we can see for January, we had some information, right? So you can see it tells you the change in dollar change, but I can show you a little bit more on the one that's already filled out. So you can see those change. But here, because we only fill in data for January, so we have data for January here. And then the tax financial statement, it tells you what your total income, your tax deductible expenses, and your net income before taxes is, right? It's a little bit higher than your profit and loss statement. So you see this 999, it matches over here, right? And also it's a little bit different than what you have here, your net profit and loss here, mainly because of how the what is allowed for deduction and what is not allowed for your profit and loss statement. So in the tax deduction, you can see what is like broken out, right? Your total deductible expenses is 3,300. So you can see all these amount that's being deducted right here, and it automatically calculate this for you. So you can see here the reconciliation is also correct because everything zeroes out, right? And again, I will do an explanation as to why there's a difference between these two, but I'm not going to go over that in very detail in this video because I want to keep it short, hopefully short. But later on, I can explain the difference between, why you're seeing this 863 here versus here, okay? All right, so right now I just want to show you that when you enter in data, this statement will automatically build you a financial statement and let you know what your variable expenses, what your fixed expenses are, how much savings you get for per diem, what are your revenue per mile, net profit per mile, your fixed cost per mile, and then your total miles that you traveled, okay, and your fuel cost for that month. All right, and then comparative, you can just pick any 2 months and then you can compare. Tax financial statement, this statement will automatically update for you. So you don't really have to do anything here, and it'll organize it for you and tell you what the taxes you owed are based on the rate that you input. And again, you don't have to do anything here, automatically populate. And same thing here with this comparative financial statement is you can pick any any 2 months or any period and compare them, and then you can see the difference. See if there's a change, or did you improve from 1 month to another. Okay, and then the dashboard, as you can see here, once you fill out all the information, you can just come here and click on any month. So you can see here I picked January because we just fill in data for January and all this information will pop up. You have the expense breakdown, you have all your costs, your miles, your loaded mile, empty mile, and then your fuel expense breakdown here. And then as you fill in more data, this graph here would auto populate for the whole year. Okay, and then the weekly dashboard here, as you can see, I think we did January, so we do January, and then I think we did week 1. So you pick week 1, you can see some data. Maybe it was week 2, probably week 2. So you can see as you pick week 2, as you have data for it, it'll automatically populate. Okay, all right, and then for tax dashboard, same thing. So we did January. You can see January and Q1 is probably the same because January is part of Q1. So you pick Q1 and January, you have the same amount of data. So here's a tax dashboard, right? Tells you what is your tax saving, how much you owe, what your estimate taxes are, your net cash flow, your revenue and expenses, deductible expenses, and revenue. So as you can see from the tax dashboard and the financial dashboard, it's focusing on very different things. So the tax is very much, what is deductible, and what the financial dashboard is like, these are all your expenses for the month, right? Your fixed and your variable cost. But the tax dashboard or the tax financial statement, it doesn't really care about your fixed and variable, right? It just cares about what is deductible or not deductible. So that's basically how the statement or the spreadsheet would flow. So basically you enter in all of your data, your revenue and expenses, and all that revenue and expenses will be organized for you in a financial statement, so you can see how you're doing for the month financially. And then you can also have a tax financial statement to see what your deductions are. And again, I will do another video to explain why the numbers are a little bit different. That's because of what's allowed, what is deductible, and what is non-deductible, right? Because these two financial statements are looking at very different things. One is trying to reduce your revenue so that you pay less taxes, and one is trying to increase your revenue so that you can have more money in your pocket. So it's just a different view, right? So I will do another video on that, but that's pretty much how this spreadsheet or this system would work. So if you purchase this item, it will pretty much help you to organize your revenue expenses to see how you can improve your revenue by controlling your costs. And then the other thing it can help you to see is what is your tax liability or your tax deduction. So as I mentioned earlier, I will show you a video, or not a video, but another spreadsheet where everything is kind of filled out so you can see how it looks like, right? So this one, I haven't filled out completely everything. I just filled out 3 months of the year for 2035 as an example, as a mock-up. And as you fill out all these data, you can see that it's easier to see visually what it looks like when it's filled out, right? So here the setting and the load profitability, so you can use that to calculate, right? And then income and settlement, here you would input in all your data here, right? And then here's your vehicle expense, so you input in all these data here. And then your per diem as well, you input in all of your per diem information, and business and miscellaneous IFTA ledger, so you fill all this out. And then for IFTA reporting, you can see I can pick like which I want, right? So if I do January, it will just show for January. But if I do all, it will show me all of the state and province that I travel for that whole year, right? And if I do, let's say state, if I pick just Virginia, let's see, Virginia will show up, right? And if I just want to pick a quarter, like quarter one, and if I do all, right? So you can see here, so anything in the negative is a credit to you, anything in the positive is what you owe, okay? So this gives you a nice summary. And then the weight and mile ledger, same thing here. You can just input your information, get the information from the state, and then from there you can it'll automatically calculate the tax owed for you for that state. Okay, load search, same thing, just input in your data here, and it'll tell you what your profit and loss is for that load. Okay, so your profit and loss statement, so you can see here it automatically filled out once you input in your data. And the reconciliation here, I will definitely go and explain that a bit more in another video. And then the comparative financial, so here you can pick any 2 months. So let's say we'll pick March and February, right? So you can see once you pick that any 2 months, you can see that there's a dollar change and percentage change, and see whether you're doing better 1 month to the next. And then the estimated tax payment, so here you just put in your tax information, your tax rate information I should say. And then tax financial statement, here is this thing's all filled out again, and only up to 3 months. I only fill out for 3 months, so you can see how it looks like when it's all filled out. And then here is the comparative financial statement, so you can pick any 2 months, so February and January, right? You pick February and January, so you can see whether you're doing better 1 month to next. And then this is the tracking financial dashboard. So you can pick any quarter you want to see. So you can see here, let me just pick a quarter here, or a month here, because I want to show you the percentage change. So it tells you what the dollar change and percentage change from one month to the other. Like, are you doing better, right? And so as you can see, as you fill more data, you have a better trend or chart here. And then each of the month that you select or quarter, you can see it matches, right? February on this chart here. So February 2035. Let's say if I do January, it says January, right? With your fuel cost, your fixed cost, your variable cost. So it's pretty cool. And then your weekly and daily dashboard here. So you can just pick any week, right? Like week 1 or week 2 here. And then you can see all your data. It tells you your fuel cost, your total miles driven, total revenue expected, and expenses and deduction, revenue per mile, profit per mile for each of the date, and then per week right here. Okay, so your daily net profit, your total revenue, deductions, and net settlement, total expenses, net profit, right? Weekly performance, and then all the charts, and then your week 2 expense breakdown. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then the last thing is the tax dashboard, right? So here it tells you you can pick any month, quarter, year to date. So here, also if you pick any month, right, it tells you the change as well. So that's pretty much how it looks like. So I hope this is helpful, just to show you how it looks like, how the information flow. Definitely check out other videos that I will be posting as well to explain the difference between the tax financial statement and the profit and loss statement. But this is a really comprehensive spreadsheet that I built. It has 20 tabs, so it's pretty amazing, at least in my opinion, because you just need to enter in your revenue and expenses, and then it takes care of the rest for you. So by having this, it can really help you keep your trucking business revenue and expenses organized. And this is something you can DIY, or do for yourself. You can just purchase this template once and you can use it forever. You can use it for multiple years. You can use it up to the year 2050, right? You can log in any load expense or general business expense. So you buy this once and you can use it forever. There's no subscription fees or anything like that. So I hope you find this useful, and you have any questions or concern, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you for watching.